Good evening, everybody. This is Shanna. Welcome to Shanna's Sweets, and I'm glad you could join me today. We're going to be making this card today. This is a card that I'm doing for my team swap this month. The swap for this month was to make a card using the items out of the occasion or celebration catalogs, which of course is the new spring catalogs for Stampin' Up. And for every $50 you spend anywhere in Stampin' Up, you get a free item out of the celebration catalog. So I chose to use two items actually from the celebration catalog. I'm actually using both the items are free items that you get from any purchase that you make out of Stampin' Up. So you can get anything out of annual catalog or the occasions catalog. So we will get right into it. I am doing some watercolor coloring with for this card. So I'm going to start with the stamping first, though. So I'm going to put our card pieces aside for the moment. So we're starting with a piece. You can use watercolor paper or the shimmer white, but I don't have either one of those, so I used the thick Whisper White cardstock, and it is cut at 4 3.5. Now you can use Versamark, which Stampin' Up sells, which I do have, but I like also using the pigment ink, which is our white. Now this is a wood. You can get this in the Claremont, which is the rubber, which I normally like, but I ended up hitting the wood. And because you can't really see to stamp when you have the paper cut, so I cut the paper so small so that I could see more of my background. So I'm just taking the white paper and putting it over my image directly down, and then putting my hand and rubbing it. So just being gentle, nice gentle rubbing motion, and then just gently pull up. And you can kind of see it glycering there. And I got a little piece of fuzzball. There we go. You should probably use, I did have the Stampin' Buddy here. Forgot to use it on the paper first, which you can do. And then I have a piece of scratch paper, which you can, I do have this big mat underneath it too. I just didn't feel like using such a big piece of paper for my scrap paper. So I do have the embossing powder, which they have wonderful, their embossing powder is really good for detail. It is a really nice fine detail. And I don't know if you can see. So I'm using white on white. And I'm going to set it aside. I've actually already done one so that you can, so I didn't have to use the embossing gun. So I've already done one up for us. So I'm going to just set that aside. There. Okay, so I'm going to put, I have a craft mat because I don't want to get my paper wet. But I'm going to spray, and we sell spritzers. I just don't happen to have one at the moment. Now, so you can do this one of two ways. You can squeeze here and get that nice pool of ink. And then I went ahead and sprayed to get it wet more so. And then I have just a paintbrush here. You can use the water water brush. They do have the little water, but this is such a big area, I didn't want to use, because see, it really takes quite a little bit, and I'm doing like 20 of these cards, so that was like way too much ink to have to do that little squirt method. So I use my re-inker, and if you dab, is that in there? If you dab some in there and then squirt your water a few times, it does make it a little more concentrated, so you may have to do it and then squirt. But then now you have this water Whisper white paper, it dries really, really fast. So because it's not as you know, it's not the water paper, but it does lighten up. And I actually have a pile I can show you. I hope it will hit the camera here, because I did a bunch last night. I haven't put them on the cards yet, but this is the pile I did last night, and you can, it started out this dark, but it really, that mint macaroon, it does lighten up, and you can see some of these have really varied in how dark they are. So, and they're all a little bit different, but they do, you know, and I actually had them squished under some paper pads because they do warp a little bit because of being water. So I'm going to take one of these that are dry already, since that one's still pretty wet, and use one of these. Then I've already cut out an oval from the stitched oval framelit dies, which are supposed to be back in stock like around the 16th, I believe, is what they're projecting. And using the black, and I just found with this particular stamp to make sure you push really good in the middle, because sometimes the middle ones don't come out as well. So that's the only one we're doing in the basic black. Now I'm going to let that dry a few minutes and pull out the Watermelon Wonder, and I'm going to pull out the base one here, and these are the little dots that's in this paper, in this stamp set here in the middle, and stamp it up really good. And I'm just going to go on the edge, and then I'm going to stamp once and then kind of stamp off, and stamp once and then stamp off, because I want both tones on my edge here. So I'm doing both. And just kind of filling in the edge. So that the middle's going to have my, I'm going kind of to the side, so I do need to fill in a little bit more on that side, because I'm going to go over to the edge there. Now this one also, I'm going to pull out my little Stampin' scrubber here. I'm going to use the little flower stamp here, but I don't want this one. I'm not using full strength, so I'm going to stamp it off once and then just line it up with the petals and stamp it there. Then the mint macaroon. There we go. On the case, here we go. I printed out, cut out a mask, and just put that over the stamped, and then I used the mint to cut out the leaf. And went right over the edge. So it's not a very big leaf, but just kind of put some in the background.